They call it the Minecraft movie because they mine and craft in the movie. They don't call it the Craft Mine movie because they don't craft and mine in the movie, they mine and craft. Now, I'm sure most of you are aware that the Minecraft movie has had a bit of a hectic release. I was lucky enough to watch it in a normal theater that wasn't filled with man-children who bring live chickens to a theater, so since I was able to watch the movie comfortably, I was able to properly process my thoughts on it without getting distracted. So, what are my thoughts on it then?
Don't be a bully and don't be a fool. Time to put on your birthday suit.
I wasn't really expecting what I got, and I can't necessarily say that what I got was all that good either. And I'm not entirely sure how to quickly convey my thoughts, so that's what the review's for. I'm going to put a spoiler warning here because I don't think I would be able to talk about anything in this movie without spoiling the plot. The scattershot, weird, and ultimately mediocre plot, but still the plot. So to start off, Steve isn't actually from Minecraft. In this movie, he's just a regular guy who was able to get into Minecraft because he found the Tesseract for it or something. So Steve eventually gets trapped in the nether by piglins, and he sends his dog Dennis to the real world to put the Tesseract back at his house. Then Aquaman gets the Tesseract from a storage auction and it causes him to go broke. Then a few minutes there's two kids and the boy gets in trouble at school, which leads him to go to Aquaman to seek advice. The two of them then grab the Tesseract and read a note that Steve left, which describes how it works. And wait, when did he leave? When did he write this note? Anyways, they use it to go to the Minecraft, and the sister and a woman who owns a petting zoo follows because yes. So Steve is let go from the nether because old lady pig wants him to retrieve the Tesseract for her. And then when Steve finds the guys, he tries to get them back home. And then they have to go to a woodland mansion in order to find the extra piece they need. They find it, and then the pig lady steals the Tesseract, but the other guys take it back, and everything's fine now, I guess. The end. My summary dumbs a lot of what actually happens in the movie, but I don't think I can even try to go into detail about whatever went on in this film. Now it's time for me to actually give my thoughts on it. For starters, I'll say this. The movie's not awful. At least not to the degree I expected it to be. It's definitely not a good movie, but you can still tell that everybody making it was having a lot of fun. Jack Black in particular seems to really enjoy his role as Steve. But I do have to say that I don't really think the role suits him. Steve is about as blank a slate as a character can get, but having Jack Black play him in this just really didn't feel right. I think part of the reason that ties into a much bigger problem this movie has is live action. People have said this plenty of times, but it still doesn't feel like it's been said enough. Minecraft is not an IP that can be made into live action well. Something else worth noting about this movie is that some parts are not very accurate to the actual game. But some of the changes I actually do like. There's this one scene with an Enderman, and it causes a person who's looking at the Enderman to cause hallucinations. And I actually thought that was a pretty cool concept. And there's also some new items that were crafted, which I think some were shown in the trailers. And while they didn't make sense then, they do make sense when you actually watch the movie. But, you know, since I do actually play the game, I obviously have to point out the inaccuracies. So let's just start that, I guess. They craft a golem with a pair of boots instead of a pumpkin, which will never work. The doors are supposed to be 2 blocks tall, and this movie doesn't follow that. Also, the players are meant to be 2 blocks tall maximum, but the tallest character is 3 blocks tall. Wolves in this movie act hostile when they're supposed to be neutral. Creepers in this movie act neutral when they're supposed to be hostile. Pink sheep are the most commonly found color in this movie when they're supposed to be the rarest color. Steve mentions that Endermen spawn in the woodland mansion, which they don't. They loot a chest room in the mansion when in the game the chests are almost always empty. Steve somehow has elytra despite never going to the end. Steve claims to have a full set of diamond armor, but he's missing leggings. Ghasts explode for some reason. Steve has a creeper farm with no way to actually farm the creepers. That's all that I noticed, but there's likely more. Okay, I think I've made it clear by now, but I don't think this movie is good. It's funny, but not good. And I actually have a pretty big reason for this. Something about the past video game movies, such as Mario, Sonic 3, and Freddy, they all have one thing in common, and that's that they aim to appease their fans. Minecraft movie does some of these things, but I don't feel like they did it for the fans. I feel like they did it for the kids. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but when you have an IP as iconic and nostalgic as Minecraft, and when people have been using it to tell far more interesting stories, it can be a little bit disappointing that they decided to go with this route. And yeah, that's pretty much everything I have to say. This wasn't a really in-depth review, but there's probably a ton of other better videos that you can watch to get a better idea of what goes on in this movie. Like I said, I think this movie could have been better, and based on some leaks, it probably was supposed to be better. But, that's just my opinion, and you're free to think what you think of this movie. And that's pretty much everything I have to say. I'm gonna go ahead and not make videos for another 6 months. I'll see you then. Bye. I actually really do like looking at the Enderman scene, just the effects and everything, and oh my god, it's